As Uganda gears up for the 2026 general elections, various individuals and political organizations are pushing for changes to address flaws in the current electoral system. Notably, the Democratic Alliance, led by the former leader of the opposition in parliament, Mathias Mpuuga, recently proposed a set of reforms aimed at changing the electoral trajectory and ensuring a peaceful transfer of power.
Term limits were the minimum consensus of the 95 Constitution. Remember, the predicate of that Constitution was to give this country a chance for the very first time in our history to change leadership.
According to Samuel Talubega, a member of Democratic Alliance, a peaceful power transition is achievable, but reforms in electoral laws and dialogue between the stakeholders are crucial.
So what we are saying is that we can find time and space now to talk to each other, and convince ourselves that we need a real transition, not a ritual transition, where one hands over to himself or to herself and you call that transition. Or you hand over to your son and you call that transition. Or you hand over to yourself as a party and you call that transition. Transition must be meaningful, must be value-laden.
Mukaka emphasizes that reforms should be the top priority and changes such as the involvement of the army in the electoral process can be addressed within the remaining time.
I want to say there is no time. These local councils can be summoned in a week. Parliament can be summoned in a week. We have had Parliament going to the north, Gulu, going to Masaka now, going to every... You can summon it and we reserve resources to just speak about that in a week or 2 or 3 or a month. So it's not too late, because we need to save this country. Again, the third aspect is what we call the referendum. The people deciding. Many people say there is no money. It's late. Many countries, except Uganda, have had plebiscites, referenda, even on election day, where you frame your questions as people go to vote for Mukaku and vote for Kayemba and Omar and Odong and Kalwanga and Katushabe. They first vote on which way to go as a country on those particular questions. Then the next government will implement them.
However, Honorable Isaac Tumsangi, an educationalist, holds a different view. He believes that the ruling NRM party can be defeated with or without electoral reforms if the electorate participates massively in the voting exercise.
So we need to see that we use all the available loopholes within the law of the NRM policy to defeat the NRM, whereby I encourage all Ugandans who are there to go and participate in election. Let us start with the youth, registering yourself, start from 20th January to 10th February. We need to do that kind of things. So in that way, we are starting the campaigning of taking over our nation to get it away from the military rule into the civilian rule.
Mukaka highlights that the political actors ought to put aside their past differences and unite for a peaceful, meaningful and inclusive power transition that will be beneficial to every citizen.
And I think it would be in his interest to divert the debate from what we call inheritance from himself, maybe to his son or maybe to his relative. He would like to be big as a statesman. What Mandela did, he's always saying, putting Mandela in high regard. We are only saying we can be partners in making him the real statesman who will go to the annals of the history of this country as a great man.
As the debate on electoral reforms continues, the Uganda Human Rights Commission has partnered with the National Consultative Forum for the political parties to enforce the Code of Conduct for the political parties and conduct joint voter civic education ahead of the 2026